Hi there, Chris here from Chris Whelan Coaching. I'm going to talk to you today about why delegation fails. You may be surprised, but typically it's not about the team. You delegated it. They didn't do it how you would have done it, so you took it back. Does that sound familiar? You probably told yourself that the team's not ready, or that it was quicker to just do it yourself, or that the quality would have suffered if you didn't do it, if you left them with it. But here's the uncomfortable possibility. The problem may not be your team. It may be the way you delegate it. Now, most owners have tried to delegate, and most owners have got it wrong, and therefore most owners drew the same conclusion. The team's not ready, right? But in many cases, delegation fails because the owner never really handed over ownership. They handed over a task, sure, but they kept the decision. They kept the standard. They kept the right to change direction. And of course, they kept the final say on every detail. The team member was technically responsible, but the owner was still emotionally and practically in control. Now that creates a very predictable pattern. The team member waits for approval. The owner gets frustrated by the lack of initiative. The owner steps back in. And everyone concludes that delegation doesn't work. But here's the thing, that's not delegation. Delegation has to come after training. The team needs to know what's expected, what outcome they own, and how to deliver it. And they also need systems and processes they can actually use. Without those foundations, handing over the work is not delegation, it's abdication. And it's like task allocation, but with owner surveillance attached. And the owner needs, of course, metrics that show whether the system is working without requiring constant intervention. Now, here's the sentence that I think causes a lot of delegation problems. They didn't know how I would have done it. Right? And that may be true, but it doesn't automatically mean they did it badly. It may mean they did it differently. There's a big difference between a poor result and a different approach. There's also a difference between a genuine standard and your personal preference. If you want someone else to own the outcome, they need to know, one, what does good look like? What must not happen? What decisions can they make without you? What decisions require escalation? And what's the deadline? How will the result be reviewed? Without those sorts of conversations, the owner often assumes the team simply know. Right? And we know what assume means. Then, of course, the owner then judges them when they don't deliver exactly what he or she wanted. Delegation fails when the owner delegates the task but keeps the ownership. I worked with an owner who handed a key client relationship over to a team member. The team member had the experience, no question of it. They knew the client. They had the capability to manage the relationship, also no question in my view. The owner said the relationship was now theirs. But 3 days later, the owner emailed the client just to check in, right? Then followed up with another message. Then called the team member to ask what had been discussed so far. The owner believed that they were supporting the transition, but the team member experienced something entirely different. What they learned was that the relationship was not really theirs. The owner still owned it. They were still watching, right? They were still available to step in. So the team members stopped taking full responsibility. Why wouldn't they? Every time they made a decision, they risked having the owner reverse it. The issue wasn't capability. The issue was that the ownership had never actually shifted. Delegation, to my mind, isn't an action. It's a mindset shift. You're not simply handing over a task. You're handing over ownership of an outcome. That requires, as I say, 3 things. Those 3 things only work when 2 foundations are already in place. First, the team has been trained properly. Second, the team has systems and processes to follow. Training tells people what is expected and builds the capability to deliver it. Systems and processes gives them a reliable way to do the work. And I say the third thing is metrics show exactly whether the outcome is being achieved. If the owner hands over work without those foundations, the owner hasn't delegated, they've abdicated, right? And you're going to get a clear result. The question is, what outcome are you expecting? Right? So that's the first thing. The second is a clear standard. What does acceptable performance look like? And then the third, a clear boundary. What can this person decide? When do they need to deliver? And when do they need to involve you? That's where the old thing of what you expect, you need to inspect matters. You expect a clear standard. You inspect the outcome and the learning. You don't, whatever you do not hover over every step. You do not quietly take the work back at the first sign of difference. Allow the person to own the process while remaining accountable for the result. Your role, I think, at that point changes, right? Because you're no longer the person who does the work better than everyone else. You're the person who makes sure that the right work is owned by the right person with the right standard and the right level of review. It's a fundamentally different job. It requires more patience at the beginning, and it can be challenging, without a doubt. It may take longer the first time. It may It take longer the second time. The person may not do it exactly as you would. But if the result is good, the standard is met and the capability is growing, that difference may well be healthy. The business does not become less controlled. It becomes less dependent on you. The real test is not whether the team does the work your way. The real test is whether the work gets done to the required standard without you sitting in the middle of it. Think about the last thing you took back. Right? Why did you take it back? Was the result genuinely below standard, or was it just different from the way you would have done it? And what did taking it back teach the person who was supposed to own it? That you trust them? Doubt it. Or that ownership is temporary until you become uncomfortable? More likely. As I say, delegation fails when the owner hands over the task but hangs on to the ownership. If you wanted a business that depends less on you, the work has to become genuinely theirs, not just temporarily parked on their desk. Look, I'm Chris Whelan, this is the Owner's Evolution. See you next week. All the best. Cheers.